Welcome back to It Starts Now, the happy hour of finance and business. My name is Stanley. I'm so excited to have somebody here. He is a writer, actor slash director of Money and Violence, and their season 2 was exclusively on Jay-Z's Tidal. He is also a writer for American Gods, which is on the Starz network, and he has other projects on his plate. Please welcome Moise Verneau, aka Mo from Money and Violence.
You're the first person that absolutely pronounced my name the way it's
well, that's because I'm
That's
Haitian too. I'm part Haitian too, so it made it easier. When I heard the name, I was like, "Wait, that sounds like a French name," and it was interesting. And then I got some background, and I was like, "Wow, this guy's really cool." I'm so glad to have you here. First of all, I would like to thank you and Faison for making this happen.
Once again, appreciate you having me. Faze gave me the call, and he's a close friend.
The reason is paramount that I present this picture because when you guys first started, there was a season where you guys was like really, really popping in the hood, and the storyline and the dialogue was good, but then the visual wasn't that great. But throughout time, you guys just kept getting better and better and better. And I thought that was the fabric to It Starts Now. And it was important to let people know that when you don't necessarily have to wait until things are perfect for you to get started, you could actually develop your skill sets along the way. And you guys really proved that to be the pillar for everything we represent. And that's why it was important to have you on here.
That's something that I strongly believe in. It's like, you know what, jump off the roof and figure out how you're gonna land on your way down. Because the perfect time is never going to come, right? No matter what the starting point is, there's going to be something you don't have. There's going to be something that's missing. And what you're going to do is you're going to delay your start because of that. Then you're going to realize even after that delay, something else is going to be missing. And if you're ever waiting for it to be the perfect time, that's never going to come, in all honesty. And waiting for that is going to actually morph itself into procrastination.
I don't think people really grasp that notion of saying that or don't have that belief in themselves to say, you know what, let me at least attempt this, and if I fail, I'm either going to fail successfully or I'm still going to fail as a failure, but I'm going to learn something from it and I'm going to benefit from that.
I don't believe the true failure only occurs at death, right? And at the end of the day, if you keep going, then you didn't fail, right? You don't fail until the last chapter of the book, when that second cover closes, you understand? So if you learn something, then you're on to your next attempt, then you're still within the story, right? And it's not failure because the journey is still going on. You know what I mean? None of our journeys are linear. None of our journeys is one step forward, another step forward, another step forward. There's always going to be a point where you have to take a step back to maybe take 2 or 3 steps forward. So what a lot of people see as failure within their journey isn't failure. It's just, it's part of the peaks and valleys that's within your journey on your road to the top of the mountain.
Yeah, that is true. As you develop in these storylines, so what was the thought process of what made you guys come together to create Money and Violence?
Writing is something that has always to some degree been a talent to me, not necessarily in the screenplay writing form, but when I was younger and I was let's start off with when I was in junior high school, and my cousins who were in college would basically pay me to write their college term papers, right? And this was when I was in junior high, and they would get A's and B's. Then you go to when I was in high school, and my friends used to pay me to write love letters to women for them because I was so good at expressing emotions, like through words. I mean, it wasn't anything that I had ever thought of. It wasn't anything that I had ever come to the realization of. But I'm the youngest of 3 boys, and my older brother always used to tell me, like, man, you really have a talent for this writing thing. But my mind was elsewhere. You know what I mean? My mind was in the streets. My mind was in running around and being a knucklehead. And then I remember my mother's retirement party. My brother called me maybe 20 minutes before I left the house, and he's like, "Mo, just sit down, write a speech." He was like, "It'll be great." So
Mm-hmm.
I sit down for 5 minutes. I jot something down. I get there. My brothers read their speech. I go up there. I read my speech, and by the time I look up, it's not a dry eye in the room. You know what I mean? Everybody's crying, and for me, that was like it was like an aha moment, right? Because my
Mm-hmm.
brother turned to me. It's like, you see what I mean? Like, he's like, this is your talent. Like, you have a talent with putting words together, like for some, and that moment, like me looking around and seeing everybody, like everyone was crying. I'm just like, God damn, like, how did I do that?
Yeah.
Um, and the money and violence thing it was just the next thing in a long list of things that I was trying to pretty much get an escape of the track that I was on. Um, I woke up one morning, was looking at the ceiling, and was just like, what's the next thing I haven't tried? At that point, I had uh, I had created a clothing line that didn't work out. I was a rapper for quite some time. You never heard of me, so that didn't work out. Um, I had written two novels, and I
Oh,
was
really?
actually on, yeah, I was actually on the verge of publishing one of my novels when the money and violence thing took off, right? And I put that on the back burner. I still have plans to publish it sometime in the future when the time is right. But the money and violence thing was literally the next thing. It was like, okay, what's the next thing I haven't tried that I
Mm.
want to try? And it was like, all right, you know what? I never did a film. I'm going to try to do a film. But at the same time, I also had so much to say to the world, and I never had that platform to speak to the youth or to the younger generation. So I used money and violence kind of as a vehicle to have a voice. The dialogue was so strong, and the first season, a lot of the dialogue came off kind of forced because I had so much that I wanted to put in there. But as I went along and as I grew as a writer.
Yeah, you guys really, the dialogue was always there. It was always there. And I think that through time, to your point, you found a way to balance it off where you were able to, I guess, share it within different scenes and different actors. Um, but the dialogue was always there. I think that was what really captivated me with the show, and I'm pretty sure with other people too. And in time, it definitely grew to grab their attention. Um, but so, did you? What is it about writing and acting that you enjoy, and what are some of the things that you didn't enjoy about the whole process?
I'm not crazy about acting at all.
Hmm.
More than anything, why? Because I'm just not I'm just not the front page kind of person. I'm not the person for the light. I'm more the play the background kind of dude. Um, why did I choose to act in Money and Violence? I chose to act in it because I didn't want to give anyone the power to be able to stop the project, right? So it was me and three close friends of mine, and I told them, I was like, look, none of us had acted before. I was like, I need us to play these four main characters, because if we're the four main characters and all the other people we bring on, if anybody gets a big head and starts feeling themselves and starts giving us problems, we can get rid of them, but the story will still go on because we are the four main characters. And it's so crazy that I thought about that so early on in the inception of putting this show together, because how ironic it is how everything ended up. Like, it's nuts, but yeah, but once again, like, a lot of people don't know, like, even I'm not sure if you're familiar with Godfather of Harlem on the Epix channel with Forrest Whitaker. All
Yes.
right, I'm one of the writers of that show as well,
Hmm.
and I was offered an acting role on that show, and I was like, I'm not stressing it. You know what I
Really?
mean? Yeah, because I mean, writing is really my love, and acting isn't something that I love to do. I mean, it's something I like. I enjoy it. I
Hmm.
enjoy it, but you also have to understand that when you wear so many different hats and you're on a project and you're writing, you're directing, you're editing, it's
True.
just one more thing to do. You
Hmm.
understand? It's
Hmm.
just an extra 2 hours that I need to wake up to remember lines.
Hmm. And it's really um, like that dedication. It's really a craft too, and then you got to put in
Much
that
so.
dedication, right? All right.
Acting is very draining emotionally if you approach it seriously. You understand? Acting isn't pretending. Acting is actually embodying and going through those emotions of that role that you're playing. It's becoming that person. You know, it's emotionally draining. And with me juggling so many things, a
Mm-hmm.
lot of times I don't have the time to actually give my 110%. You know, I have a new project that I'm working on right now, called Black. Um, the acronym is Betrayal and Loyalty, all for control of the kingdom. Um, I'm one of the leads in that, and the only reason I chose to act in this show is because the role that I wrote is so left of who Rafe was.
Mm.
I just felt that it would be a challenge because me and Rafe were very similar, so Rafe wasn't really a challenge for me.
Right.
But this character here, he's underhanded, he's grimy, he's just the worst of the worst, man.
Mm.
You know, but he's also very conflicted, right? Because one thing that I learned as a writer is never write a villain as a villain, because no bad guy thinks he's a bad guy.
That's true. And no bad guy
You
gonna
know,
start off as a bad guy.
the only time you write a villain is if you're writing a cartoon. Like, in all honesty, you know. But yeah, but I'm one of the leads in that project. And once again, you know, I chose to do it because it's so left of what I did before. And I think that for the audience, I think they would enjoy it. It's like, wow, like this definitely isn't Rafe, you know?
Mhm.
And I think it puts you in a position that brings out uh people's ability to see your talent as far as acting is concerned, because you're playing a role. I mean, it's like when Denzel played
Training Day.
Training Day. Exactly. It was so
Complete
left
opposite.
of
Right.
everything he had done that it was like, wow, you know.
1000. Mm-hmm. What comes into mind when you're creating these type of roles to these actors? Do you see these actors in your mind visually, or what's the creative process with that?
When I create these characters, I definitely see a picture in my head. Uh that's why it makes it a little easier for me to cast, because I already have a visual in my head. A gentleman by the name of Charles Chick Egley, he mentored me. He's still mentoring me to this day. That's my guy.
Mm-hmm.
And he's been in television writing for like 40 years. Like, he's worked on everything you could think of, from like Moonlighting, The Saint Elsewhere, The Walking Dead. I mean, everything.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and he always taught me, he said, listen, the better you know your characters, once you know everything about your characters, the story begins to write itself,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because it's like, if you know someone, then you can predict their next move easily. If you know them inside and out, you understand what I mean? But he taught me, you know, the list, right? Which is basically a character description. And from, does this character, did he have both parents? How did he grow up? I mean, every possible thing about this character, even though you're not going to use it in the story,
Mm-hmm.
because no matter what, in your writing, you can feel it in the underlay, how well you know those characters.
You're so creative on from my point of view. You're so creative on, I guess, both sides of the spectrum. And a perfect example is the TI collaboration. And I think that's one of the most recognizable scenes when it comes to the whole money and violence. I think that one stood out the most. And you did a great job acting, as well as a great job as writing the whole thing. And my thing is, first of all, how did that come together between you and Ti? That's number one. And the other thing is, uh, people had to see or feel the passion in the writing for them to want to be a part of it. Do you get what I'm saying?
Well, the TI thing came about because my managers at the time, C Styles and Teddy Altafoy, they have a long-standing relationship with Rock Nation.
Mm-hmm.
They're the ones who pretty much put together the whole title thing. Ti is who actually brought us out at the title concert at the Barclays Center for us to announce um, the premiere of the second season of Money and Violence.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just something as simple as, yo, you know, my manager told me that, you know, they had a conversation with him. He likes the show. And they were like, yo, what do you think of him maybe having a cameo? I mean, maybe in the finale, since the finale is like the biggest episode. And I was like, you know what? Look, man, if we can make it happen, you know, let's make it happen. And he agreed to it, you know, and he flew down to New York, and we basically, because he was actually in 2 episodes, but we shot everything in one day.
Mm-hmm.
But he came down. I mean, you know, real cool guy, man. Showed us all the love in the world, and you know, appreciate him giving us his time. And I mean, really, although we were just, you know, the show on YouTube, he came in, I mean, with his A game, man, as far as the acting, and really gave his all, which I respected a lot,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And even with the script that I had wrote, you know, his little thing, man, which made it even funnier.
Oh, his ad libs.
Libs, because the whole "don't come to Atlanta" thing, like that was him. You understand what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
yeah. But at the time, I mean, you know, like we really had a huge buzz.
Right.
But
Definitely did.
regardless of whatever, like, you know, I appreciated that, man. I definitely did, because I feel that, you know, it helped us to make history even more, you know, because for just a little show on YouTube, for an actor like T.I., who's been in blockbuster movies, to actually do that, I was like, wow.
Yeah, he saw what we saw, which he had a lot of passion and grit, and it was raw. It was really raw. What comes to mind, or what's some of the challenges that you face starting a project, or creating a project from start to finish?
There are a lot of challenges, man. I think my biggest challenge, my number one challenge, is me, because I'm always trying to outdo my last project. And
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't even say outdo as far as numbers or as far as viewership, but I'm I don't like to do the same thing twice.
Yeah.
Um, for instance, you know, a lot of people don't know. After Money and Violence, I had did another project that I had actually put on YouTube. I did a show called The Spot, right? And that was something that was kind of personal for me, because I wanted to challenge myself as a writer.
Mm-hmm.
So I did a show that's a drama, but it takes place in one location, like a sitcom. So you think of a show that's an urban drama like a Power or The Wire, but it takes place in one location. The entire show took place in my apartment.
Wow.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. And I did it because, as a writer, I wanted to challenge myself and see if I could keep a story moving forward without using several different locations, just with one location. And I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I pulled it off, like, you know, 8 episode, first season, half an hour um each, and it was a really good show. It was a really good show.
I didn't even know you worked on a project like that. So now, question, because you're working on American Gods, correct? And so, what's the difference, or what are the differences between doing a Money Violence and then doing a show like that?
I mean, American Gods is a whole different animal.
Yeah.
Not only because of genre, but also because American Gods is based on a book. It's based on a book by Neil Gaiman. So when you work on a show like that,
Mm-hmm.
you have to be able to not betray the book's audience, which means stick to the story, but at the same time, you have to know when to be able to veer off for entertainment purposes, because don't translate over the exact same.
That's
You
so
know,
true.
yeah, story
Yeah.
structure doesn't work the same. Just because it's great in the book doesn't mean it'll be entertaining as a
Uh, uh,
screenplay.
correct. And it's a lot harder because they already have their core audience, so it's a lot harder.
Well, not to mention as well, you also have the fact that in a book, you can write the most outlandish, the most amazing, visually amazing
Mm-hmm.
things, because all it takes is the imagination to conjure up what it is, as long as you're descriptive enough. Um, but it has to be produced. You understand what I'm saying?
I do.
So
I definitely understand because that transitional period of having someone's writing or creativity and to translate that language into a video screen it's hard because every reading a novel or reading any book, you're gathering your own perception of the book, correct?
Definitely. I mean, but that's also why. I mean, books allow you to do so much more.
Right.
That's and that's the reason why. I mean, 9 out of 10 times when you see a movie or you see something based on a book, it's always the book is better. Well, the book is look, television, you have a limited amount of screen time,
Mm-hmm.
right? Hour long series, 10 to 12 episodes at the most a season.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas with a book, you can have 1,000 pages. You can go into as much detail as you want. But in television, it's kind of the condensed, compact version. And keep in mind that the audience that we have now, their attention span is definitely not the longest. Their attention span is very
Limited.
short. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, so you have to keep things very condensed. You have to be to the point. It can't be drawn out because or else you begin to lose their attention.
Mm-hmm. But how do you keep their attention though? That's the challenge.
Their attention. I mean, if we're gonna break it down into the mechanics of screenwriting, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
the main thing that keeps people attention in a scene is conflict, right? You have one character who wants something, another character that's trying to keep it from them, and then the entire scene is the back and forth, which is the battle between the two of who wins that fight. Or you have one character who doesn't want to reveal something and another character who's trying to find it out. Conflict is what lies at the foundation of keeping an audience captivated. If you have a scene between
Mm-hmm.
2 or 3 characters with no conflict, then what it becomes is what we call a Murray the Explainer scene, which is just people explaining events,
Okay.
places, and things, and that's boring.
All right, you have a conflict, but is conflict and because I hear two things. I hear sometimes the conflict is what makes the storyline, but sometimes it's the love scene that makes the storyline too, that really captivate people as well.
Yeah, well, I mean that in itself is drama,
Okay.
right? But let's be honest. I mean, how many shows do you know? Even if it's a romantic comedy, even if it's a movie about love.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, how many shows or movies have you seen where there's no conflict, where everything is great? Then nobody'd want to watch it. There
That's
has to
true.
be a prop. There has to be an issue or a problem that needs to be overcome,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then that's where we get to the end, whether that problem is resolved or whether it isn't. You know
Mm-hmm.
what I mean? That's usually the conclusion, but there has to be some type of conflict there. There has to be something that someone's after, right? And there has to be someone else that's trying to keep it from them. And when I say someone else, it doesn't necessarily have to be a person. It could be the forces of the universe. It could be the government. It could be, I mean, and you can actually break that down to any film you've ever seen, right? You think
Mm-hmm.
Indiana Jones, right? He's after a talisman, but what's keeping it from him is that tomb with all the booby traps and this, or you think about a movie about the government where someone's trying to find out top secrets. You think about Enemy of the State, right? Where the government wants that tape of them killing that senator, but Will Smith is the one that's keeping it from them, and then it's the conflict of the government trying to uh, tarnish his reputation and pretty much discredit him in every way possible. There's always a conflict.
Yeah. How do you keep your tools sharp, your skill sets?
Man, honestly, just practice makes better, man.
Mm-hmm.
Practice makes better. So I'm constantly writing, right? And I write everything. Like people don't know. I'm actually halfway through a comedy, a film that I'm writing. I also have another show that I wrote, which is based around 4 women, and it's about relationships. I just try my best to keep my mind because right now the only thing I've really exposed to the people is the urban drama thing. So I think everybody thinks that that's all that I can write, and well, I mean, I guess not now because I wrote on a show like American Gods, but
Mm-hmm.
that's how I keep my mind sharp, my tool sharp is just to pretty much keep writing. Practice makes better. Definitely doesn't make perfect.
True, true, true. But how do you I guess, how do you gauge that? Like, how do you know you're getting better? Do you ask for feedback? Do you share that information? Like, how does that process work?
Well, there's no way for you yourself to tell. I mean, because think about it, all of our opinions are subjective, you
True.
know?
Mhm.
And at the end of the day, I mean, one person's beautiful is another person's ugly, one person's great is another person's trash.
Mhm.
Um, but for me, how I can tell that I'm getting better is just my story flow. Is just how multi-layered my
Mhm.
stories feel now, right?
Mhm.
Money and Violence, it was a good show, but at the end of the day, I feel that there's so much deeper levels that I could have went with all of these different characters, um, to get to know them a little bit better.
Mhm.
Um, and now when I write, that it's an opportunity for the audience to get to know these characters that I'm writing now so much more. I feel like so much more is exposed, more exposition.
Mhm.
Also, as well, you know, I when I began, I wrote intuitively, right? I just
Okay.
wrote, okay. It was like basically walking into a dark room and feeling my way through.
Right.
But as I began writing for television,
More
now I
structure.
started learning more structure, right?
Mhm.
Which is like, okay, um, setup, development, turning point, development, climax that leads to conclusion. You know, a scene shouldn't be no more than 2.5 to 3 pages. Uh, what I told you about conflict.
Mhm.
Now, whereas when I started, I would read a scene and be like, damn, something's missing. And I'd have to read it over and over and over and over and over and over until I pinpointed what it was. Now I kind of have a roadmap. So where I can go, okay, yeah, I got my setup, I got my development, but I'm missing a second turning point. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Or I've really massaged out the character's drive in this scene, which is basically, what does the character want? You know, is it easy for the audience to tell what the character wants? And
Right.
does this scene propel you to the next scene? Right? Because
Mhm.
you want a scene that by the end of the scene, you're like, okay, it propels you to the next scene. Now we're looking forward to what he's going to do, rather than a scene that ends with you hanging, just hanging, right? And it's like,
Right.
there's nothing, you don't know what to look forward to.
Right.
It pushing the character in any direction, you know.
To summarize, it sounds like in the beginning you had a process of elimination, and now you have a checklist because you had a process of improvement. You know what you need now versus in the beginning.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't call it a process of elimination. I'd just say, once again, it was intuitive, right?
Right.
Um, my first time going to LA and working with my mentor, we sat in the writer's room 7 to 8 hours a day, 5 days a week for 3 months. And he would go, how do you know this? And I'd go, I don't know. You know, and he's like, that's crazy. He's like, it's so crazy how many things about writing story you know intuitively that I had to go to Yale to learn.
That's why when people say God gives you a gift, He really gives you a gift.
Yeah, but what I also know, and Chick, he's the one that told me this. He worked with damn, the gentleman's name, but it was one of these great writers, and he told him that writing is nothing but the astute study of human behavior,
Mm.
right? And that's what writing story is. And if you know human behavior, you can write, right? If you know how people's brain work, if you know how people process information,
Mm-hmm.
you know, because a lot of times, even with Money and Violence, I would find myself writing a script. We would get on set and I would go, you see this? This is what everybody's going to be putting on Instagram tomorrow. This scene right here. You see this scene right here? This is what everyone's gonna love. You see this scene? This scene is gonna do this. I would tell my actors, yo, after this scene, the people are gonna go crazy for you.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what would happen.
How did you
You
feel?
understand?
How you felt that, or just
No, I just knew. I know my audience.
Right.
I know my audience. Like at the end of the day, I know what we respond to. I know what movies we love. I know what movies we think are classics. You know, for instance, that first scene in the first episode of Money and Violence, when
Mm-hmm.
dude says Shorty got a fat ass and Miz shot at him. I knew like that was the scene that was supposed to make everyone want to watch episode 2. Like the rest of it was, this is the scene that's gonna matter. And in all honesty, that's the scene from the first episode that went viral. I knew I because I know
Mm-hmm.
what my audience responds to, because the truth is there isn't a story that hasn't been told, right?
True.
But it's about, can you tell it in a unique way that people haven't heard it told before?
That is true. That is true.
Well, that's the only difference, because the truth is Money and Violence is the same story we've heard a million different times, but it was just that I think it was told from a more authentic standpoint.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't told from a perspective of bravado or arrogance or trying to look tough or gangster. I think Money and Violence was very vulnerable. I
Mm-hmm.
think it was, look, these are four
True.
guys growing up in the hood, running around what they're doing, but this is no glorification of the streets, because like I told everybody, you could not find one happy character on Money and Violence. Everybody was miserable.
Everybody was going through something.
Was going through it. Like
Yeah.
there was no,
Yeah.
yo, I got 100 grand, I'm balling. There was none of
Mm,
that.
none of that,
There,
man.
it's
And
the
that's
reality of it.
it's the reality, and I think that's what it made it so connect with people. And a lot of things there, a lot of shows you could feel the disconnect, but this one just resonated with people because of the fact that everybody was trying to come up.
And I think even more than everybody was trying to come up, I think it was, no one was proud of what they were doing.
True.
Everyone was doing what they were doing because, you know,
They
there
had
was a
to.
line that Ray said to Kane, like, you don't do what you want, you do what you have to. You know, because at the end of the day, you think I want to do this?
Yeah.
No, I don't. But bro, I gotta survive. I'm a man at the end of the day. I remember when I was doing my pitch for Money
Mm-hmm.
and Violence, you know, I was doing my rounds in LA. I was pitching to HBO, Showtime, Starz, and part of my pitch was Money and Violence takes place in Brooklyn, you know, 3.5 miles from the world's wealth, meaning
Right.
Manhattan, right? And I said, but the truth is, although they look at us like we're the savages, across the Hudson, that's the world where people live by no rules, because that's a world where people will do anything to be rich.
Yeah.
Over here, we're just trying to be seen by the world as men. That's all we're doing.
Providers.
Yeah, as men, like
Mm-hmm.
we grow up being told that we're nothing, so
Right.
therefore we put our lives on the line and go to these great lengths because we just want to be recognized as men, as something,
Right.
you know. But
It
at
gives you a
the end
sense of purpose too.
of course, but at the end of the day, it's just so crazy, because you know, you look at us as savages, where the truth is 3.5 miles away, that's the world where these people will do anything for money.
Yeah, corporate life. Yeah.
You know, it's funny because on the show that I'm producing now, Black, there's this conversation like a between a black street guy and this white gangster, and the white gangster is going, you know, through this whole thing about how he doesn't trust Negroes because they're underhanded and they can't be trusted and blah
Mm-hmm.
blah blah. And he says, you know, the nerve of you. You know, the black guy tells him, like, you know, the nerve of y'all.
Mm-hmm.
You know, y'all sit here with all of this opportunity, acting like y'all are better than us, but look what y'all do for power. Imagine what y'all do for survival.
Yeah.
You get what I'm like?
Yeah. No,
Put yourself
that's
in my
powerful right there.
shoes, because y'all are sitting in luxury and are still being
Yeah.
underhanded and all of that. Whereas we have nothing, and what we're fighting
Yeah.
for is simply to survive. But you got the nerve to knock us when you're doing the exact same thing when you're comfortable.
That's powerful right there. That's powerful right there. Yo,
Yeah,
that's powerful. Right? Hey man, how did you become customer viewer uh with a service mindset? Like I'm here to serve the customer slash viewers.
man. That's it. that's a reflection of me as a person.
Mm-hmm.
Even necessarily just as me as a writer. I mean, that's just how I live my life at the end of the day. And I've been through a lot and I have a lot of experiences and I feel that I have a lot to share.
Mm-hmm.
And because of that, I thank the Lord for giving me this vehicle because to me it's like, how could you squander this? How? Like God has given you this opportunity to be able to speak to the world, and you're going to speak to them about nothing. Like you like, how can you
That is
possibly
real
do
right
that?
there.
Right,
That is
right.
so
Because
real.
yeah, so
It's like a
to
slap in
me,
the face.
it's a slap in the face. You
Mm-hmm.
understand? And
Yeah. How does social media now, like with IG and everything, how does that help you with marketing yourself? Because I think it's very important, and especially having this us conversing right now, um, you have so much value to share. Now, how does social media impact your marketing strategies?
um, it impacts them relatively. I have a love-hate relationship with social media. Um, and the reason being is I think the internet is an amazing resource. Amazing. I think, our ability to pretty much speak to the world with something at our fingertips, whether it be our computer or tablet or phone, I think it's amazing. But I think that at the same time, there's an oversaturation of it. And I think that it's not just those that have something important to say that now have that capability, right? And
Mm-hmm.
and I watch it happen all the time. If a lie is told enough times, it becomes the truth.
Truth, yeah.
So whereas now, because of social media, it's very hard to be able to decipher between truth and
Because people
fallacy.
exploit that, yeah.
Yeah, people exploit it, very, very much. But I mean, I use social media to my advantage when it's time. But I mean, the great thing about me is I'm comfortable in my own skin,
Mm-hmm.
very, and nothing I can possibly see on social media, nothing anyone can say about me will ever, ever, ever penetrate like past the surface. Like I'm
Right.
very comfortable in my own skin, and I'm not here to make excuses or I'm not here to defend something that never occurred. Like it's just, you know.
Mm-hmm. Hey man, I'm so grateful that your brother encouraged you to write that speech, because if that didn't happen, we would have missed out on a few things. So I think that was we got to shout him out, because that's probably uh, the the driving force for you being where you at right now, in my opinion, from what I'm hearing.
Shout out to Bruno. Shout out Bruno. I love you, bro. Yeah.
Hey man, anything you like to share with people?
Um, It's 7 episodes, 30-minute episodes, 1 through 7, and the eighth is $3.99. Also, as well, look out for Black Betrayal and Loyalty, all for Control of the Kingdom. It's a project that I'm working on right now that I think it's gonna raise the bar, and
Mm,
I think it's gonna change things once again. Um, I know that what I did with Money and Violence, it opened up a door for every single person to pick up a camera and to shoot their own narratives, which I'm very proud of. It gave
yeah.
people that courage to go out there and uh, and try, without any type of education or any type
Mm,
of background. But at the same time, um, the only thing that I'm not too fond of is the lack of themselves and to once again, I mean, the same way that I'm always looking to get to the next level, the way that I'm always looking to make my projects better is I don't really see that thirst in people, right? It's like season 4, season 5 of their project will look exactly like season 1 did, and there's no thirst there to improve, but
there's no pursuit for perfection.
I wouldn't even say perfection. It's just um you should want to master it as much as you can, right?
Mm-hmm.
And and I think that comes with having a certain level of pride in your work,
True.
right?
True.
Um, and I think that arrogance is the creative's enemy, because what arrogance does is it makes you feel that you don't need to go any further, that you have already arrived, when none of us have arrived, because art is never completed. It's simply abandoned at some point, because if we didn't abandon it, we'd be working on it forever. But look out for Black. Once again,
True.
I'm going off on a tangent.
Nah,
But
we love
look
this.
out, yeah, look out for Black. Uh, look out for American Gods season 3. Also look out for Godfather of Harlem season 2. Um, and thank you guys for listening, and thank you for having me. Oh, and
Nah,
follow me on Instagram, Cloud9TV _.
Cloud9TV_ at IG. Please follow him. If somebody wanted, because it's something that just touched base with me. You said something about not being educated or not pursuing the knowledge to before they get into this type of industry. Let's say somebody that was curious to become a writer or wanted to be a part of directing, writing / actor. What advice would you give them to gain that knowledge?
Aside from practice making better, it's always great to learn hands-on. I would also tell them, look, man, there's a million and one YouTube tutorials that pretty much every and anything on filmmaking, you know, just the simple things, even as far as writing story, learning the structure. There are great books out there that you can read. That's the difference between knowledge and wisdom. Knowledge you can stumble upon, right? But when it
Mm,
comes to wisdom, you have to go out there and actually seek it. It's not something you can stumble upon, you
right.
know. Um, so go out there, man, and look for it. It's there, like it's there in abundance. It's at your fingertips. You know what I mean? You just have to go out there and find it. I mean, listen, bro. I strongly believe that we should use our lives as a vehicle to inspire people to keep breathing. Life is hard, man.
Yeah.
Life is hard.
It's
I,
not
I
fair.
heard, yeah, I heard someone say, um, it shouldn't be this hard to merely exist,
Oh
right?
shit, that's dope.
Yeah, like, and it's dope because I mean, when you
Yeah.
think about it, it's like we're the only animals that pay to live on this planet,
True.
right? Like, and
True.
that in
Everything's
itself is,
accessible except for that.
yeah, like it's crazy, but every last one of us, man, to keep breathing life into others, because what people fail to realize, like I told my daughter, I said the biggest misconception in this world is that you you should have to earn my love, right? Whereas
Mm,
I need to know you for a certain amount of time, or I need to know you to some degree to love you. When that's BS. We all coexist on a planet together. Like, love should be the everlasting constant. I should see someone across the street and I should be concerned about their well-being. I should care for them, like,
right.
without having never met them a day in my life, because at the
Right.
end of the day, we coexist on this planet together, and their existence, even if I don't know it, affects
Right.
mine in some way,
Right.
you know?
Right.
But
But
yeah, man.
society has made it difficult to do that, and it's a shame.
But that's the thing. I don't think it's difficult to do that. I think that what society has programmed us and brainwashed us, right? And we fell for it.
Yeah.
But we
Yeah.
always have the power at some point to stop, look around us and see what's going on, and to come to the realization that no, this isn't the way it should be. You
Yeah.
understand? Like, at the end of the day, no matter how much control society has, the
Mm,
choice is on every last one of us. We make the choice.
yeah.